You're listening to Wanna Coffee with Kai Alicia.
And Adriana.
Talking
Random.
sensible
Shit. We are back.
We're back and we're talking about vaginas today.
Oh boy.
Good old vaginas. Otherwise known as pussy and the kitty cat and the snatch. There's all sorts of strange, derogatory, sometimes kind of cute names for it. But today on the show, we're going to just go ahead and call it its legal term. Its medical term.
Yes.
Vaginas.
Vaginas. Yes. I think that's the best way to call them.
Yes. Vaginas. People don't generally speak about, and if they do, it's hypersexualized. It's, I don't know. It's just, I don't know, taboo.
Yeah. It's something that is so ingrained in people's mind. Like for me, culturally, I'm Latin American. And for me, this is an effort.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk that much about them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's refreshing to talk about them in a way that is healthy, constructive, and not sexualized. Because, okay, half of the population, they have them.
Yes.
This is the right way to talk about it, to normalize a topic that it should be. I mean, it's an organ. It's just like you have a brain, you have a kidney, you have a liver.
Why not? Yeah, why not talk about it?
Yeah, exactly. And I hope, guys, they talk about penises in the same way.
I want to say, if we're reluctant to talk about vaginas, I don't think that men even... I can't imagine them talking about this. It's weird because, with your heart, you need to exercise often in order to keep it strong. You need to eat healthy foods, non-fatty foods to avoid cholesterol or reduce your level of stress to keep your heart healthy. The world knows this information. But what do we know about vaginas? And here we are, as old as we are. I realized I have a limited perspective. There have been so many things that I've learned in the last couple of years, dare I say, about my own vagina and things that I've been like, whoa, I wonder what that means,
It's always one new thing that you learn for anything that might happen to you down there. But yes, you're right. The amount of information there is in the media, say online, on TV, or magazines, sadly, most of them, they still don't get rid of the taboo situation. And the way they, they write these articles sometimes is, it's so pink. They try to do it so girly that you think, oh God, maybe they're just bullshitting me. I mean, I don't trust what this person is. Although some articles they say, oh, this article has been approved by doctor this and that. So it might be a truthful information. And then if you try some other websites, say medical websites, say Mayo Clinic, WebMD, I don't know how trusting is that website. Still, the language is a little bit more complex, and you can understand it. You can do some research, but it's not accessible for someone maybe with a background that doesn't allow that person to investigate, an everyday person that needs information right away. And then the other option that they always say is go to your doctor, which is perfect. But then again, there are some doctors that maybe they're old school and they don't provide information, or they think that information and treatments according to your needs are really square. And they say that happened to me. I went for a treatment to this male doctor, and he was like, yeah, you have to do this and that. It was about PCOS. And he said right away, oh, you need what's the name of the shot for sugar that they give the
insulin?
Yeah, no, it's not insulin. It's metmorphin. No, metmorphin.
Metamorphin?
I don't know. I don't remember that well.
Okay.
But is a medicine diabetics they take.
Okay.
And because PCOS mess a little bit with the way you take sugar in your body. And he was like, yeah, you should do that. Then I was, okay. I read about it and I was like, no, this is too drastic for me. I'm not in that category, in that category yet. Then someone else recommended another doctor. This is a woman. This is someone young. This is someone that is more modern. And she was like, no, what you need to do is to do exercise. Every single day. You have to eat better. You have to control your cholesterol, you have to control your stress, you have to take these medicines, but this is everyday treatment. This is nothing special, so you can control your PCOS with this. Wow. Instead of taking another medicine that it's maybe work a couple of years ago, but it was not for me. So my point is, even when you go and try and talk with doctors, they can give you something so much different.
Yeah, and it's like, that's so interesting that you're this female doctor, and here we are, she's a woman, she's got a vagina, is recommending care for basically issues having to deal with the uterus, like general exercise, healthier eating habits, to basically get rid of it or cure it, right?
Yes. In theory, it doesn't have a cure, but it's something that you can, minimize it. To
minimize the symptoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can have a regular life. You can have, you don't have your cysts anymore, and you don't have any fertility problems, or you don't have any, hormonal imbalances. So everything, she, reduce it to you have to do exercise, you have to eat better, and you have to take in this case is you have to take the pill because they balance the hormones. That your body's not producing like in a steady way. And wow, I'm sure that if I was in a really in a worse stage in that situation, she will have said, no, dude, you have to take this medicine. But but no. So I think she was a little bit more open, and she listened to me. I would say she listened to me like for an hour, saying like, how's your life, what's your story, and learning about me. Exactly.
Wow, that's really interesting. Doctors, the role of doctors in our care as well. But what's even more interesting is that you got a second opinion, you did your own research, and said, even though this man's a doctor, and I'm sure what he's saying is coming from a reasonable place, I feel in my body, in my mind, that it's something else, or at least there's some other way for me.
Yes.
And I think that's really empowering. I think, especially as women, listening to our own direction, especially with our bodies, is so important. No one knows our bodies better than we know our bodies.
That's true.
Kudos to you on getting a second opinion, and thank God for this female doctor who listened to you and provided another way, which has been obviously really helpful.
I think that.
Yeah.
I'm going in the right track.
What a relief. Now you don't have to take that shot.
Yeah, no. That the other way, it meant more expenses, a treatment that you cannot easily leave.
Yeah.
Like that is something that you have to take
forever.
For a long time. Yeah, forever, or a long time. And a lot of, secondary effects. Even though the doctor, he was highly recommended. Like, he's one of the, I will say, the top doctors in the country. Like, you see a lot of women trusting him. And I know firsthand because he treat a lot of relatives of mine that he's really good, but in my case, maybe, you have to listen to yourself and trust yourself and say, no, this is not for me. But thank you, but...
Yeah, and it's like, it sounds to me someone who obviously is well-researched, as and trusts the science around what he does and what he's probably offering. But it's like, the other thing that I'm hearing too, and what you're saying, is that our bodies are science, and they're correcting themselves and they're readjusting themselves and trying to create this homeostasis or this place of balance all the time. So why not trust that a bit more than we do someone else? And that's really cool. I never went to a gynecologist to be like, okay, this is this and this is that. Just because I feel like going to a gynecologist is a very special thing where you go if you are exhibiting symptoms that are really out of the jurisdiction of like a GP or a general doctor or something like that, or if you're preparing to have kids, or if you've got some sort of reproductive issue or something like that,
So you mean business when you go to the
gyno?
The gyno. Yeah. Wow. But do you think that having, especially this type of doctor, a little bit away from everyday women, you say, do you think that makes like a barrier for women to take care more of their own sexual health, their reproductive health?
Yeah, like
because if you go to the GP, I mean, you can talk about women's health and all that, but it's not the focus. I don't know. It's not the focus of the appointment, or maybe it's not something that you can talk into depth with the GP.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you go directly to the gynecologist, it's like, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I feel or do not feel.
Yeah.
We're just talking about
that. Specifically. Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's why I haven't gone. But for my case, I can see how it could have been so much easier. Like I've had cases of UTIs, of BV, things that I was like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And I'd go to my doctor and they'd be like, oh, go on that antibiotic, or...
Exactly. Or explain. I think that the fact that I will miss the most if I were into this type of health system would be that the gynecologists, they just... like if you want to, they will explain it to you like if you're a kid.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if that is the way that I want my information to be provided, and I'm really annoying with doctors. But yeah, that's what I because again, vaginas, they're so mysterious. I mean that, and it's an organ that, I don't know, maybe this is the way I see it, but it's so Latin. Like the stories I hear about women suddenly like, oh, she had cancer, or oh, something happened and she didn't take care of it, and it's something like, it's Latin that there is a risk linked to it. That whenever I got to the doctor, I just want to know, okay, what is happening?
Yeah.
So this is not it's not a symptom or something related to something more serious, for that matter. So, I don't know, I think that in Latin America you kind of grow to be a little bit scared of not knowing what's going on down there. So, because usually, you see several cases of that. It just happens overnight. Oh, that person, she has cancer. And that happened, and maybe it was in a stage that wasn't treatable. So, we are really scared of that, maybe. So you go directly to the gynecologist and ask all the
pertinent questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a really good point. In that, this feeling of not knowing. I guess that's another reason why I haven't went, is because I felt like I've always gotten an answer that has given me a level of reassurance to say, okay, this is based on my test results, or based on her findings, or his findings, this is fine. I will say, there was a period in America where everyone was pushing the HPV shot, all the doctors and pharmaceutical ads and, pharmaceutical companies were pushing the HPV shot. And after getting it for, a series of 3 months, I would regularly complain of like discomfort, but just in my like uterus or like above my bladder kind of feeling. And I would go to the doctor, and at the time my doctor was female. This is in California. Yeah, my doctor was female, and she would do my checks. She'd do my yearly checks, and she would be like, "Oh," she would say, "I can feel like a little bit, some cysts in there. I can feel some cysts in there, but it feels like a couple of them have burst. We'll check them in."
Out.
Yeah. We'll check them in, a couple of weeks, come back in a couple of weeks. Let's see if they've gone down. If they haven't gone down, then we need to take a further step and get you in to see a gynecologist, or get some x-rays done, get an ultrasound, done. And, I went in a couple of weeks later and they had burst, but they were reoccurring, these cysts. And the only relief for me in my mind was that they were bursting, so they would go away. But I was like, what? And I do think back on this years later, why did they happen? And is this linked to the HPV shot? Because I never had them. You never had them before.
Huh.
First and foremost, we're women, and we are the best ones to speak about our bodies.
But that starts at home. So, who was we know who was the first person in each of our lives to talk about sex with us.
Yes.
Moms.
Moms.
So, how was your experience?
We've talked about it a little, but, my mom's pretty conservative. You mentioned, culturally, vaginas is not something you really talk about, right? And, in my mom's culture, it also isn't something that you talk about. And I was a very talkative kid and very curious, but the way in which my mom treated it, it was kind of like, you learn as you go along, and I will provide you with some general information very quickly, once or twice, and here's a book, read this book. When I first got my period, it was later in life. I was 17, and my mom gave me a book about it when I was 13, so I was prepared, but I also wasn't prepared. And I would talk to my mom about like, oh, is that normal to do that? Or what is that? I'd bring her to the toilet and show her like, I did that. And, and somehow I was a little proud of it, if I'm honest, like, look at that, and mom would be like, yep, that's what it is. That's what it looks like. Sometimes it looks like that. So that's what you have. You have your period. Anything else? And look, everybody's doing the best they can. My mom did the best she could in the way she knew, and I get this feeling that her mom probably did the same thing for her. Actually, she told me a crazy story about how she started her periods, and she would cut. She was very young. I think she was 11 when she got her period, and she would cut the sleeves off of her father's shirts and use them as pads.
Yes.
Because it was thicker material. And, it's just like, wow, that's pretty clever for a kid, you know?
Yes.
But no one was talking to her about it. Her mother didn't talk to her about it. It was just something that she just thought was, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. Something's going on.
Yeah, if you don't know that is going to happen, you're a kid, you're like, oh God, I'm dying.
That's exactly what she thought. She thought that she was dying. She didn't want to tell anyone that she was dying, so she just carried on. And then I think is at school, you know, a school teacher said, oh, you know, came to her and said, you're menstruating from, you know, I can see you from behind. And I sent her home. And so then her mother had to talk to her about it, you know? And I think that's how it happened. So, yeah, you know, sexual health, reproductive health, it hasn't really, my mother's been sort of clinical about it, which to some degree I appreciated, but also
you needed more moral support.
Yeah, I needed more moral support, and I needed a bit more clarity on things, you know, and going to the doctor as an adult or like later in life to talk about these things that probably I could have just talked about it to my mother, you know, and asked her advice about it. It's weird now, you know, and a lot of the times too now I've got male doctors. I've got a male doctor who told me like, hey, Alicia, you know, have you ever looked at this website called Care Down There in an effort to, you know, not talk about these things, very personal things to my female clients. I usually refer them to this page on general care for your vagina. And it's a really cool website, you know, and it would have been great if I was years earlier, getting to know myself and know my body and things like that. But it is the vagina, I feel anyway, like I mentioned to you earlier, I feel that the vagina is it is a very special, unique organism, and they're still figuring it out. It is just, it produces miracles. Okay, it produces miracles. It's got its own cleaning system. It's a whole thing, and as much despite us having so much information on it from the internet, from the doctors and things like that, I just don't think they know everything. And it works differently in everyone's bodies. Everyone's unique. And it's like the ears, you know, they're still figuring out the ears. They tell you the information that they can, you know, with it. But then they also say, like, don't fuck with it. You know what I mean? Do your best. Eat well, drink lots of water, you know, wash it, but don't go in there and wash it.
You know, over curious, don't mess with it.
You know?
That's true.
And yeah, so.
And I don't know, like sometimes women, we can mess a little bit down there, you know, because, you know, trends, marketing,
Elle magazines.
A lot of magazines that just said, you know, if you shave everywhere, you're going to look nice, and this is going to, you know, improve your sexual life because you're going to feel more and this and that and whatever. But what they don't tell you is like, okay, you have pubic hair for a reason. So let it be. Enjoy yourself. What we were talking about.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Tell me, I would like to know, like, what is the real reason?
Oh, protection.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
protection,
I did know
like
this.
from stereo agents. Imagine that we are living, you know, in prehistoric times and we're naked.
Yes.
So we're protecting ourselves down there from, I would say, dust.
Yeah. And
humidity.
I did know that, but I thought, you know, nowadays, because like I went, you know, I got into this later in life, got into this whole Brazilian thing. And for some, and every time it was such a weird thing for me. Getting a Brazilian is so uncomfortable. Oh, yes. It is the worst type of pain. I sound like a child, I understand, but it is the worst type of pain. And but I was doing it for beauty standards, to keep up with these beauty standards later in life. And every time I'd leave from the salon, I'd be like, why?
This is unnecessary.
Why did I do this? Why do I do this? Why do I do this to myself? What is the point? And it's like, okay, yes, I, like, oh, maybe I'm doing it to be sexy, blah, 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 blah. But it's also like, I liked my vagina with hair on it. Like, I actually did. I feel like a little bit more like a woman as opposed to a child.
Exactly. Right? Like, it looks pretty, but it doesn't look right.
Something, I just feel...
It doesn't look... Yes. She doesn't look mature. She doesn't look, her age. Like,
Yeah. It's like, for fuck's sake, it took all this time to gain the hair, to get the hair, and now I don't have it. And it's like, yeah.
And what is outside doesn't interfere with what is inside, so... It's not that. But it changes a lot of the...
True.
The whole dynamic that we're trying to, entice with.
It's true.
Not having heard that.
It's true. It's true.
But the thing is that, I will say, now that, going back to your question, that why we shouldn't do it now, I think they just say, maybe just your skin gets... Irritated and sore in your hair, and you can have...
Thank you. I was going to go back to that because that's just like, I get it for prehistoric times, you know what I mean? But like now, it's like, what would be the reason, it's no longer protection, right? It's like, what is it? But it is true. It's like, the skin too, like when I get it waxed, it's a different color, you know what I mean? My skin is a different color. And I can see it's red, and it's, there are, these... It almost looks like a little rash after it gets done, like, because the bumps are raised from it, and it just looks a little sad.
No, it looks like an attack to your own body. When you say, like, poor you, why am I so cruel into doing that? But, 3 days later, we're going to be all right again. But yeah, you just feel like hugging it, because it's like, I'm sorry, I should have done it. But then again, beauty standards,
keeping up with them. I mean, look, if you get it done, you get it done. I've been getting it done for almost like a year and a half. And it took 3 months ago for me to say to myself, nope, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. I am not doing this anymore. I do not need this. It's an extra 30. Oh my God, it's $30. It's $30 to $40
every month
AUD to get it done, which is actually nothing, because in America it's like $70 to $100 something, I think.
Wow.
So USD. So it's nothing. Whenever I try and get it, whenever I used to try and get it done in America, I'd be like, you know what, forget it. I'll just wait. I'll let this thing grow out and be a little gorilla here until I get back. But no, I'm done.
By the way, just like to all agree, it's a lie when they say that it's not going to hurt the next time. That's a lie.
It's a lie.
That's a lie. It always hurts.
It always hurts. It's always painful. I literally sweat during it. I sweat. The first time I got it done, this woman put a fan on my vagina just so that I wouldn't sweat as I'm getting it. And it was so embarrassing. It took an hour to do because I was in extreme pain. And yet I still got it done. And so I'm over it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Guys should do it from time to time.
They should.
Just for the sake of it.
They should.
They should.
Because that's why we're doing it. Why else would we do it? If it was just women here, we wouldn't give a fuck.
If I were a lesbian, I would be like,
deal with it. You know what I mean?
I love you. Don't do that.
Exactly. So, in addition to talking so freely about this, what are some things we can say we've learned, or we can say are useful now? Because I wish that I had known some of these things earlier in my life. Growing up, my mom told me, like, you wash your vagina with mild soap, and make sure you rinse it out thoroughly. Rinse out your vagina with thoroughly with water. But I didn't know that you don't go in there with the soap, And I would go in there with the soap, and it would fuck with my pH balances. For years I would be like, oh God, it's just, whether if someone wanted to have sex with me, or my boyfriend wanted to have sex with me or something, it would be like, I'd be like, oh, it's just temperamental, it's a little sensitive right now or something. And because, the pH balances were just off. They were trying to correct itself. So it was like sort of not pain, just discomfort down there,
One thing that I wish that was more normalized, but maybe that is because I come from a Latin culture. You have to normalize mood swings. Okay, that is something that it was hard for me to accept, because for me, I've always because I had PCOS, I didn't know how they work in my body, but I didn't have that many mood swings in a way that I would be like irritable or really sad or really I was flat.
Yeah.
But then again, I started to take the pill. Started 2 years ago, and then I learned what is a mood swing, because my hormones, they were normal.
Yeah.
And then I could understand, like, oh God, it's so hard to have mood swings. And women, they're just judged about it.
Yeah,
like,
you're being a bitch today.
You're being a bitch. Yeah. Or why are you crying? Or there is this stupid phrase that I hate it with all my heart, when they say, oh, she must be in her days, And I've seen it being said to my friends, to my colleagues, and, everything will go away, whatever merit you can have in life, if you have a mood swing. But it's something, again, that happens to half of the population.
Yeah.
It should be normalized.
It should be.
Yeah, and I'm a little ashamed to say that I was like, that I used to think like that, because it didn't happen to me. I will say, yeah, of course I will be moody, whatever, but I didn't have that kind of swings. Yeah. I definitely didn't know about mood swings, and not until I got the pill. And I was like, oh God, this is so difficult. And I really admire how women could get on with their days.
Yeah. Literally get on with their days despite it.
Like feeling like shit. And just trying to move on with their lives. And the thing is that constantly being criticized, and by men usually, and women sometimes, because they have an emotional reaction. Emotional reaction that.
Also, thank you. You're right. Normalize the mood swings, because damn, they're so normal. They're so normal, and it's abnormal when you act like you're normal, because you look fucking crazy. You look absolutely. I hated seeing coworkers who I can tell they're having a bad day. They're going through it. Whatever they're going through it. And then later they'll be like, sorry, I was just on my period. And I'm just like, why are you acting like you're not then? Because what's happening is you look like you've got 7 heads instead of just cry. You know what I mean?
Just let it out. Let it out. And if you're having a bad day or bad week, just try to compose yourself like the best way you can. But no one is going to judge you.
Yeah.
The worst thing is but again, women, they're a little bit pushed to that age that, like you said, I was angry, and then suddenly you're okay.
Yeah.
That makes you look like you're not.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah. See, another thing is to just, but it's hard, right? Another thing is to say, I'm having one of those days. It's my monthly. We should actually say, hey, we're going through this and it is what it is. Do not douche.
No.
Don't do that. I remember doing this trying to douche for a UTI because I thought, maybe there's like a holistic way. A couple of years ago, I thought, maybe there's a holistic way, and I just douched my UTI away or something like that. No, there isn't. No, there is not. Okay.
No.
And if there is, please message us. That would be great. To
know.
Yes, I would love to know. All that Summer's Eve stuff. I don't know if you've heard about the Summer's Eve. It's specifically designed for the vaginas. Girl, no. It's not for you. It is not for you.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Oh, one more, which is a little on the froofy side. I was with a guy towards the end of our breakup. I kept getting reoccurring UTIs. And no, I can't confirm that he was cheating on me or anything like that. I can't, obviously, but I trusted him enough. And, we were using protection and things like that. But I would get these reoccurring UTIs. And I couldn't figure out why. And as soon as we broke up, I stopped getting them. I just stopped getting them. And the same thing happened to one of my best friends.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, the same thing happened to her where she was getting these reoccurring UTIs towards the end of her relationship. And as soon as she broke up with that person,
magic.
They stopped happening. And you could say, maybe it was a particular position but nope. You could say I changed my regimen, for care down there. Nope. Nothing. So
there is something there. Yeah. I mean, I bet you're not the only one or your friends. So yeah, if someone knows about this,
please let us know.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting to know.
Thanks for listening. We want to know what you think.
Send us your comments and follow us on Twitter and Facebook
at #WannaCoffeePod.